So we start with analysis of framed structures by direct stiffness method, classical approach. As per syllabus, you have both analysis by classical approach as well as finite element approach. So I am taking now to start with the classical approach. So we are analyzing a plane frame structure. Plane frame structure means already you should know now what is the plane frame structures. So since it is called as frame structure, so that means it is a structure which has to be made out of by only one-dimensional line elements. And all these elements, either it may be pin connected or it may be rigid connected. If it is pin connected, then it is called truss. If it is rigidly connected, it is usual frame structure. So since it is called plane frame structures, that means all the members, they should lie in one plane. All the members, if they lie in different planes, it is called space frame structure, otherwise it is plane frame structure. So examples of these plane frame structures are your usual beams, or it may be plane truss, or it is a rigid plane frame structure. So these are the general three varieties of structures you are going to get under this particular name, plane frame structures. All these structures are called plane frame structures. We are dealing with the analysis of these structures. So the plane beams, either it may be a simply supported beam or it may be a continuous beam structure. Similarly, a plane frame truss, it will be having a simple truss or it may be having number of members, a built-up structure, or it may be determinate or it may be indeterminate. All these varieties of structures. This rigid plane frame, it is like the simple single plane frame, or it may be multi-bay plane frame structures, or it may be single story like that, or it may be multi-story frame structure like that. So if a plane frame structure, if it has got only one span, it is called single bay. If it has number of spans, it is called multi-bay. Similarly, if it is of only one story, it is called single story. If it is having number of stories, it is called multi-story. So all these things you can see, they satisfy this particular plane frame characteristic. That is, they are all made out of by one-dimensional members, and all members lie in one plane, and all the members are interconnected either by rigid joints like that in beams and rigid plane frames, or it may be pin connected joints. So in trusses, if it is pin connected, then it is called truss. That's the difference between these frame structures, planar frame structures. All are called planar frame structures, but main difference is beams and rigid plane frames, the members are interconnected by rigid joints. In trusses, it is by pin joint. And the difference between beam and rigid frame is that here all members lie in one line, whereas here they are lying in different lines in different directions, horizontal and vertical in plane. So that is the actual that classification we dealt with in the previous class, and each type of structures we are going to analyze by this direct stiffness method. As I told you, in this approach, classical approach of method of analysis, I told you all the nodes has to be acted only at the joints. And all these members are interconnected at finite number of points, which we call it as joint or and all the unknowns are treated only at the nodes or joints. Similarly, all the nodes we are considering at the joints only. So that is the main characteristic. Since nodes as well as the unknowns are considered only at the joints, so these unknowns has to be determined at these by applying three conditions which you already know. That is equilibrium condition, compatibility condition, as well as if that particular joint happens to be a boundary of support, these are relevant support conditions. The three conditions has to be looked into before going for analysis. So the actual equilibrium condition, it involves that resolved components of all the forces at that particular joint should keep the joint in equilibrium, or that particular joint is not supposed to undergo any displacement at all. It should be stationary. When it should be stationary, and also there should not be deformation, appreciable deformation at those joints. Since no deformation should be there, so there should not be any force, because only force can cause the displacements or deformations. So that means no force should be there. So the components of the forces which has to be zero at the joint, that's the condition of equilibrium. So because the forces or internal forces as well as external forces, they may act in different directions, but for analysis purpose, we resolve them into orthogonal direction, that is three orthogonal directions, but in plane structure, only two orthogonal directions we consider, because it is in one single plane. Two orthogonal lines will constitute a plane, right? The region between the two orthogonal lines, it constitutes a single plane. So all these will lie in that particular plane. So the conditions of equilibrium is component of forces. Forces means it is of two variety types. One is direct force, another is a moment. These are only two types of forces which we come across. Shear is also a direct force only, right? And moments. Moments either it may be direct moment or it may be torsion type of moment. So the moment about the two axes as well as the direct forces resolved along the two axes should be zero. That is, sigma Fx should be zero, sigma Fy should be zero, and sigma moment about an axis normal to the plane should be zero. That is about this axis. Sum of all direct forces and moment. The other three forces, that is force, direct force along z direction, moment about x and moment about y, they will be out of plane forces which we are not considering, because we are dealing with only analysis of planar structures. So only three types of forces we have to consider. So in the equation of equilibrium, we are supposed to consider three equations: sum of all horizontal forces 0, vertical force 0, and moment 0. Next, support conditions. So if it is a fixed type of support, then a fixed type of support or joint or node, there won't be any displacement. Displacement I am talking about in any of the three directions. So that means the displacement along horizontal direction is 0, displacement along vertical direction is 0, as well as, of course, rotation, that is also 0. All the three varieties of displacement are 0. That's the condition we have to satisfy. And this condition, we call it as essential boundary condition. Essential boundary condition. We are dealing with stiffness method. So I am talking about only the displacement. Right? In the equilibrium condition, I talked about the force, static condition it is. In boundary condition, Since it is direct method, we talk about only the displacement. All three types of displacements parallel to these three orthogonal directions has to be 0. So if you find the boundary to be a hinge, then at this type of boundary, the condition is the horizontal displacement is 0 as well as the vertical displacement is 0. So that is the essential boundary condition. Similarly, if the boundary happen to be a roller like this or a simple support prop like this, then also the only vertical displacement is not there, but horizontal displacement it is possible. So only V is 0. We call the displacements in the three direction as u, v, theta, standard notation. So here, fixed boundary condition is all three types of displacements are 0, hinge, two displacements are 0, that is two translations. Here two translations as well as rotation. Here only vertical translation is 0, that is in the direction where roller is provided, it is allowed to move. Suppose if the roller is provided in the other direction, vertical direction, then vertical motion is there, horizontal is not there. That's only one displacement is not there. Similarly, simple support, the direction of support where it is provided, there it is displacement is 0. So these are three types of boundary conditions, and also there is one more type of boundary condition. It is called guided type of support. In the guide type of support, this is not roller. It is allowed to move in the roller direction, but allowed to rotate. Is not allowed to rotate. Here, it is allowed to rotate. Theta is allowed, but here, theta is not allowed. It is called guided support. So here only translation, the rotation is 0, that is theta is 0, and of course V is 0. So not V0, U. Horizontal displacement is not there, rotation is also not there, but vertical motion is there. V is there, that is called guided support. If this guided support is provided like this, then when vertical is 0 and rotation is 0. Here horizontal displacement is 0, here vertical displacement is 0. That is the difference between this guided support, having roller in horizontal direction, here having roller in the vertical direction. So then the boundary, it may have a spring support. So it is similar to roller, right? Spring support. So that is horizontal direction, it is allowed, is displacement not there. But vertical displacement, it is allowed. Whereas in roller, vertical is not allowed. That is, vertical motion is possible in spring. Whichever direction spring is provided. If spring is provided vertical direction, then U is 0. If the spring is provided in horizontal direction, then V is 0. So that you have to be. These are the types of boundaries or supports which a structure can have. So you have to remember the appropriate type of static, kinematic boundary condition. These are all called kinematic condition. That is only with respect to displacement I am talking about. I am not talking about force because it is direct stiffness method. Equilibrium condition, of course, it is only static condition. That's only with respect to forces. Boundary conditions, I am talking about only the kinematic boundary conditions. They are called essential type of boundary conditions. If the boundary is provided like this, it is called essential type of boundary condition. Suppose if an end is free, then at the free end, moment is 0, shear force is 0. Correct? At the free body. But all types of displacements are allowed. U, V as well as theta, they are allowed. But this is not allowed. But moment is nothing but di d2y by dx square. This is called second derivative of the displacement. So here, the second derivative of the displacement, which we call it as curvature. The first derivative, it is called slope. Here theta is 0 means it is here theta 0. So the theta means it is first derivative of the displacement. That is, first derivative is 0. Here second derivative, that is curvature, is 0. And when I talk about only the kinematic boundary condition, here curvature is 0. Here theta 0 means slope is 0, and others are all the translations. Displacement is 0, right? Only translated displacement. When it comes for rotation, slope is first derivative of the translated displacement, and curvature is second derivative of the displacement. Similarly, V0 means it is third derivative of the displacement, that is 0. So this type of conditions, we call it as natural boundary condition. Natural boundary condition. So that means the boundary conditions which you have to satisfy are two types. That's with respect to displacement I am talking about. So one is natural boundary condition, another essential boundary condition. The essential boundary conditions are mainly displacement is 0 and slope is 0. That is first derivative of the displacement. Y may be 0 or dy by dx is 0. So that I have explained here. So in fixed end, both first derivative as well as deflection is 0. In hinge, only displacement is 0. Roller, only displacement is 0. Either horizontal or vertical depending upon the direction of that support, how it is being placed. And in free end, curvature is 0, that is the second derivative, and third derivative of the displacement is also 0. These are the kinematic boundary conditions which you have to bear it in mind at the time of analyzing the structure. Equilibrium condition one, this boundary conditions another. So accordingly, we have to fix what is known as degrees of freedom. I have explained, I told in the first lecture what is degrees of freedom. As the word itself, the word itself indicates at the center. Degrees of freedom means it is the freedom available for movement. Right? The freedom available for, that is free movement. It can happen only in three directions. Two translatory type of displacement, another rotation about an axis normal to that plane. So those are the only three types of general displacements which occur in any frame structure. But in rigid plane frame, all the three can occur at any joint other than boundaries, right, generally. But in trusses, because it is a pin joint, each joint is pin, this rotation is going to happen. It is not restrained. So that we have to, it is there. So that we are not considering during the analysis, but it is not contributing to the unknown force. That moment is not at all coming to picture in process, only the direct forces, either axial force mainly, one force, either tension or compression. So in process, only in condition. But in beams, it is only translation as well as rotation. That is so and this. Is it clear? Here, the three boundary conditions, what I am mentioning. So which are the three boundary conditions to be applied? You have to see. Generally, continuous beam, it will be having support at the ends in the vertical direction. That means vertical motion is not there at all, strictly speaking. The other one is only rotation, slope. So that is slope is allowed at some joints. At some joint, it is not allowed. Right? So depending upon that, rotation is allowed. So only unknown displacements will be only rotation. Translation will not be there. That is called the degree of static indeterminacy. Because the degree of static indeterminacy in the previous class, I told it is equal to Nj minus R, where J is the number of joints, R is the number of support reactions in that. So, and N is a figure, general number of figure. As I told you now, in plane frames, this N will be 3. All the 3 displacements are possible. Whereas in nodes of trusses, only 2 displacements are possible at truss joint. And rigid plane frame, all the 3 are possible. Rigid frame. Like that, in the beams, 2 displacements are possible. We assume beams to be axially rigid. Axial horizontal displacement is not there, only vertical displacement is possible. So at any joint of beams, N will be 2. At any joint of plate trusses, N will be 2. Both beams and trusses. Here in trusses, both are translation. In beams, one is vertical translation, another is rotation. Horizontal will not come into picture. In rigid plane frame, at any joint, all the 3 are possibilities. N is 3. So like that, you count how many joints are there. Right? That is, if J number of joints are there, means J into 2 in place of plane trusses, J into 3 in rigid frames. In beams, it is J into 2. So that is the total number of unknown displacements or degrees of freedom at all the joints of the structure. Correct? Nj is total number of displacements. And R is number of reactions. I told you here. The essential boundary condition as well as natural boundary condition I told. Which are the displacements which are not possible? So that you can see. At fixed support, 3 displacement is not possible. Hinged support, 2 are not possible. This guided support, 2 are not possible. Spring, only 2 are not, again, not possible. Like that. Here, curvature, which we don't consider, but in finite element analysis, we are considering these displacements. Curvature, third degree, and all those things. While applying variational principles or potential energy principles, we are considering that we have second derivative as well as the third derivative, along with the first derivative also. Otherwise, usually it is only displacements, only one, u, v, w. And the rate of change of displacements, the first rate that is called slow, that also we consider. But other 2 varieties in this classical approach, we don't consider. But I have just told for theoretical interest's sake the boundary conditions. So this is about the conditions you have to see, and then after applying these conditions, whatever we got, the number of unknown displacement, that is called your kinematic indeterminacy. So first you have to see the total degrees of freedom, that is Nj, total degrees of freedom for the entire structure. Then you have to apply the boundary conditions and remove that, the one which are not going to occur. So that difference, we call it as the kinematic indeterminacy. That kinematic indeterminacy only we have to determine during analysis. So that kinematic indeterminacy only to be numbered or represented in the analysis. That is called, that may be either in global, generally it has to be in global direction, because all loads are considered at the joint in global direction, and those displacements which are occurring, they should occur in the direction of the load. That means it has to be in the global direction. So that is ds is the notation. D1, D2, D3, that you have to identify. After finding the kinematic indeterminacy, you have to identify the displacements at all the joints which you have to determine during analysis. Because before going for analysis, you should know what is that you have to evaluate. I told analysis is a process which involves determination of internal member forces, that is static, as well as displacements along with the support reaction. That's what I have told. Analysis of a structure means evaluation of internal member forces developed at the joints as well as support reactions, that is with respect to statics, and the displacement, that is with respect to. So first you have to identify what is the known displacement in the given problem. Then what you have to determine internal member force. Of course reactions you are marking. As far as force is concerned, reaction is being marked. So those reaction bases, since we are doing it is a direct stiffness method, we consider only the displacements, so the reactions be removed. So only the other things left behind, that is one other displacements at all other joints only to be considered, that is this ds. Then internal member forces. Reaction is over, internal member force is over, then we are left with forces, that is force, internal member forces, which we have to determine during analysis. That is in local coordinate. So this will be in global coordinate, then forces, that is internal member forces, we have to mark it. Because internal member forces, in case of beams, at any member of the beam, we have two types of forces, either shear and moment at one end. Independent forces, which I told in the first class, the independent forces in a particular beam member, they are shear and moment at the ends. Out of this, only the moments at the end, we can call it as the unknown independent force, or moment and one shear at one end you can consider, or moment and shear at the other end you consider as the unknown. Not all four are the unknowns in case of beams. So because I told you in slope deflection equation I applied equation of equilibrium, I found that if you determine M1, M2, then these shears you can determine at the, suppose if this is called M1, M2, then this is Q2, Q1. Then this Q2 is nothing but M1, M plus M2 divided by L. Here is the length. So Q1 is equal to minus Q2. So that means out of four unknowns, only if you know M1 and M2, other two unknowns can be easily determined. So only M1, M2 are the independent internal forces developed, or it could be M1 or Q1. If you know M1 and Q1, that is, if you know Q1, Q2 can be determined. If you know Q1, Q2, M1, M2 also can be evaluated, because if you know M1, another M2 can be evaluated from the first. Or this, either you can select the force and moment at one end, or the moments at the two ends. They can be selected as the unknowns. So when you determine your analysis like that, the end moments, that should be enough. Usually we select end moments, because end moments, if you select, that end moment is the moment about z-axis. That whether it is in the local coordinate or global coordinate, it has to be same. Because it's a planar structure, the moment in the local coordinate system as well as global coordinate system, the third axis remains same. There is no transformation from local to global is required. That's why it is advantageous to choose the end moments only as the unknown impedance. Same thing applies for impedance. So that is the shortcut procedure we follow in this classical approach or classical method of analysis. But in finite element approach, we are considering general 3 degrees of freedom. The remaining one, we impose the boundary conditions separately and come out with the actual unknowns. Because their time is not required and it is very fast. But for hand computation, it becomes very tedious and laborious. Time requirement is large. So we resort to shortcut procedure and we resort to these processes. So that's why first, in the identification of the unknowns, that is mainly the internal member forces, what you have to determine, and the displacements, what you have to determine. This is in global coordinates, this is in local coordinates. These are the things. And of course, support reactions. That anyway, you will take it for granted. That also is included along with this displacement. Otherwise, displacement, you put it as 0. The boundary condition we are applying, and suppose the boundary conditions, displacement is taken as 0. So indirectly that has come into picture for the analysis purpose. Is this point clear? This much information you should know before going for analysis of any of these 3 varieties of frame structures by direct stiffness method, by classical approach. By finite element, of course, same procedure we follow, but this shortcut procedure, some displacements which I am taking it out, beginning for analysis purpose, for transformation thing, and all those things are avoided, and that is the only difference. Otherwise, virtually principle-wise, basic concept-wise, both are same. There is no difference. The approach, only the methodology we adopt for analysis. Some shortcut procedure we adopt in this classical process. That's the only thing you have to remember. Otherwise, both the approaches are similar. Now, knowing this, that is your conditions, equilibrium, compatibility condition means that also we indirectly apply. Compatibility condition, it requires that the component of displacements at the end of any member, at any joint, should be same. That is as simple as that. That's compatibility condition which is required. Right? So, suppose if you take this inclined member at this joint, the component of displacement of this in horizontal direction, in vertical direction, and its rotation, if at all it is there, that component about the axis, rotation component about that, relative to the direction, all the 3 only to be considered. And that is same as the horizontal component of displacement of this inclined member, horizontal component of this member, horizontal component of this member, of course it is 0. All these should be same, and that will be equal to your joint displacement. Generally, whatever is present. In degrees of freedom, we consider the joint displacements automatically that takes care of the member end displacement by compatibility condition. So the compatibility condition is automatically applied because compatibility condition, it requires that component of displacement of any member meeting at a joint should be same. That is, suppose x direction, the x component of this member, x component of this member, x component of this member, all has to be same, and that will be equal to your horizontal joint displacement. Similarly, vertical component of displacement, that is vertical component of inclined member, vertical component of vertical member, and of course horizontal member will not have, or you take that as zero. That will be total, that has to be same, and that is equal to this. That is compatibility condition. So while selecting the unknown joint displacement, automatically that compatibility condition is taken care, support condition is taken care, and equilibrium condition we apply in the equation of force displacement relationship. Internal external force is equal to internal force developed, that is the force displacement relationship. We have derived P is equal to stiffness into displacement, we have told. So that is the equilibrium condition that we have taken care. The boundary condition we have taken care. Degree of freedom, indeterminacy we have considered. All these things, basic concepts which we dealt with in the first lecture, that is taken care if you follow these steps. Now I give you the general steps to be followed in the analysis of all these three types of structures, that is beams, trusses, and rigid plane plates by this classical method. So the first step is data, or you can say, instead of calling data, I'll say static and kinematic indeterminacy. That is the first step, static and kinematic indeterminacy. So the static indeterminacy is unknown forces to be determined at the joint. So that is that. So that is, you have to identify PM. Because we talk about the statics only with respect to local coordinates, member and forces. Right? Member and forces. PM we have to identify. This is the element nodal forces, force vector. Element nodal force vector. That is with respect to local coordinates. That is your PM1, PM2, PM3 to be determined. Then kinematic indeterminacy is with respect to global coordinates. That is ds. This is global nodal displacement vector that you have to identify. That's data. You have to mark in the given problem at the nodes, at the joints of the structure. You have to see how many members of the structures are there, M. So that is also M, number of members. You have to count. N, then J, number of joints, and R, this R dotted for that support condition we will take. So N and J, number of members, number of joints, and number of unknown member and forces, as well as the nodal. This is the major thing. You have to identify upon the unknowns to be determined. If you want, you can take that also, or in number of support reactions. So at those supports you have to substitute the kinematic boundary condition, which are the displacement component which are 0 that you have to consider. That is your step 1. Then step 2. And also I told all loads has to be acting at the nodes only. If there is a member load, if a particular problem, of course generally in the beams you will have member loads, UDL or concentrated load, that will be given. So that you have to convert it into equivalent joint loads. So for that you have to find out PMF, that is fixed member end actions. So each member you have to assume it to be fixed at the joints, at the nodes, and whatever load is there, you have to find the fixed member end action, standard fixed end member action. If it is a UDL on a beam or span L, of intensity of UDL is W, then it is WL square by 12, WL square by 12. At left hand it is anti-clockwise, right hand clockwise, minus plus. Similarly, with a concentrated load, it will be WL by 8. Right? W is the intensity of the concentrated load, center concentrated load, L is the span. WL by 8 again is anti-clockwise, negative clockwise. So the sign convention I showed you. Left to right, positive, bottom to top, positive rotation in the clockwise direction, positive. That is for the forces and displacement. We apply the same sign convention. That's also very important because these are all vector quantities. Sign and direction both are important. Then step 2, you have to formulate member element stiffness matrix. That is Km that you have to generate. Because I told you already in the first class I derived the element stiffness matrix for a truss member Km. This is plane truss element. Member stiffness matrix is EA by L 1 minus 1 corresponding to this element coordinate system Qj, Qk. Suppose if you take a member I having nodes J and K, I is the element number. Suppose you have an element number I running from 1 to m, number of elements. Each member, you can identify one member, two member, second, third, fourth, like that. I running from 1 to m. And each member, they are all line elements. It will have two line ends. Each line will have two ends. One end I will call it as Jn, another Kn. Right? So the degrees of freedom with respect to truss, plane truss element, because I am talking about member element stiffness matrix, that is with respect to local coordinate. Local coordinate, one axis will be the horizontal centroidal axis, that is first local axis x dash. Along x direction, the two ends with respect to these two joints. So here the degrees of freedom, one is this, another is this, 2 degrees of freedom. This we call it as Q dash J. This displacement I can call it as Q dash K with respect to X dash local axis. So this is with respect to Q dash J and Q dash K. Each displacement I derive its stiffness matrix for plate stress element like that you have to remember. Then for beam element, so choosing the two moments at the ends, J joint, K joint, I member, this is MJ, this is MK. They are the unknown moments. Here in truss, this is the axial unknown moment, axial force. This is the unknown end moment. So that is, and also displacement, the global displacement here. Displacement is with respect to global axis. It has, of course, that I will indicate it using different colors. Then it will be very clear. So if you take any plane truss element, if you take like that, so this is the element I am calling, which has two ends, J n and K n. So the global directions are this, this is the global direction, right? So that is, this is X, this is Y, and this is local axis, X dash, this is Y dash. X dash, Y dash, local axis, X, Y. XY, global axis, and X dash, Y dash, local axis. Y is element number and J, K, nodes. I hope it is clear. Each element will have left and right hand, starting from left to right. That's the direction of local axis always. That's why I call it a J. Jn is always origin, Kn other end. So line joining J and K is the local x-axis. Global x-axis is always horizontal. Right? The forces and displacement at these joints are mentioned like this. The force along global axis, this force we call it as displacement. First I talked about is called U displacement, U8J, Uj. This is Vj. This is Uk, Vk. The two displacements, right? And rotation, this is theta I, theta j, this is theta k. The possible displacements. Plane truss element as well as plane frame element I will take. It takes care of all the three. In plane truss, this theta j, theta k, we are not considering. Right? In truss, no movement is coming, no rotation also we are taking. Only U, V we take in truss. In beams, we consider only V and theta. Beams we assume it to be axially rigid. Then this is nodal displacements. Nodal displacements in local and global coordinates. This is with respect to global coordinates. With respect to local coordinates, so this is the u dash j. This is v dash j. This is equal theta dash j. Global, it is same as local. So the displacement along local horizontal axis is u dash prime. I am using prime. U dash. Here it is u dash. U dash, v dash are all for local coordinate. U, v, they are all for global. And rotation, it is same for local as well as global. Because the z-axis is same for local coordinate as well as global coordinate. Similarly, this is u dash k, this is v dash k, this is theta dash k. It is same. These are local and global displacements. Possible local and global displacement. Correct? Only unknown displacements. As for force is concerned, I will mark it in a separate sketch. Again, I am considering Jj as the element I, Jn, Kn, and local axis x dash, y dash, that is x dash, y dash. Global axis is xy, and forces at the joint, the force along x is, I will call it as Fj. Here force along this direction I will call Q shear, that is Qj, and moment I will call it as Mj. Likewise here it is force K, shear K, and moment K. And of course in global directions, or in local direction, force along this direction, I can call it as F dash K, here F dash J. Similarly, force here, normal to that. Q dash K, Q dash J. And of course, this is M dash K, M dash K. It is same. So these are the forces and displacements. So that means here P S is equal to Fj, Qj, Mj, Fk, Qk, Mk. they are the forces in global directions along the global axis. PS at Jn, it is Fj, Qj, Mj. Fj, Qj, Mj. At K, Fk, Qk, Mk along XYZ direction. That is the general force in global direction for the element I. This is for element I, Psi. Similarly, in local coordinate, Pm, I, the forces, the same forces with prime. F dash K, Q dash K, M dash K, F dash K, Q dash K, M dash K. So this is always 6 by 1. This is also 6 by 1. With respect to local axis, F dash K, Q dash K, M dash K. F dash K, Q dash K, that is axial force, shear, moment. Like that, all it. So in beams, it will be only shear and moment and axial we are not considering. In trusses, moment is not considered, only axial is. In rigid plane frame, all three are considered. So likewise, here displacement also I can write the displacement, we call it as with respect to member displacement in local coordinate dm, that is equal to u dash j, u dash j, theta dash j, u dash k, u dash k, theta dash k. Likewise, in global coordinate system, it can be, that is ds, ps, dm, pm. Displacement in local, force in local. Displacement in global, force in global. Displacement in global, it is uj, vj, theta j, theta j, uk, vk. This is the general nodal forces and displacement we consider in plane frame structure. In particular, in trusses, we have only translations uj, vj, uk, vk, or u dash j, v dash j, u dash k, v dash k coming to picture. In beams, it is v dash j, m dash j, or vj, mj, vk, like that. That's all. In rigid plane frame, all the three. These are the things which we have to identify in the first step. The kinematic determinacies, statistical determinacies. So this is a very, very important thing. If we fail in this, then everything will go. So we have to identify actually what we have to do. Then this is very simple. Step 2, formulate the element stiffness matrix. This now straight away I will say this element stiffness matrix always with respect to the element nodal coordinate u dash j, v dash j for process element. If you take, so this is only theta is not coming to picture, only u dash j, v dash j and u dash k, v dash k. So that's all for line element. This is only line element. Now I hope you can replace the same notations for element stiffness matrix. For truss you can now say, for truss it is the element we are talking about. So along the element it is only one. This is 2 dash K, 2 dash K. The two displacements, 2 dash K, 2 dash K, or U dash J. U displacement along local x coordinate. Element displacements here, U dash K, U dash J, U dash J, U dash K, along that. So with respect to U dash J, V dash K, the element stiffness matrix is given by AE by L 1 minus 1 minus 1 1 with respect to this U dash K and U dash K. Similarly, in the case of beam, about beam I will write horizontal line J, K, this is MJ, this is MJ. No, MJ, MJ. The local, this is global. Local and global, they are one and the same. In terms of these coordinates, the stiffness matrix of the beam element is EI by L, 2 EI by L, it is 2, 1, 1, 2. This also I have derived. So that is step 2. First step, you have to identify the unknown with respect to local and global coordinates. You have to visualize and mark the unknown displacements, unknown force. Of course, with respect to example, it will be very clear. Immediately I will work an example now, then it will be clear. Step 2, you have to find the stiffness matrix. Here for all the elements. Then step 3, formulate transformation matrix. Transformation matrix. Or that is, you have to transform the element transformation from local axis to global axis. That we have to, that I will explain it. So then step 4, formulate global stiffness Ks for the entire structure. This is also for the entire structure, element stiffness matrix. For the entire structure, global stiffness matrix. So that Ks is given by RT Km R. That is just a matrix operation you have to do. So Km you have generated in step 2, R you have generated in step 3. You have to take transpose of R, multiply it by Km, and then again multiply by R. You will get the global stiffness matrix. These are all pure matrix operation. Only you have to formulate the matrices. That's why I told you MATLAB is very easy to program. Only matrices you have to input. Because this is also defined. What is the unknowns to be determined and all. Here these are all known. Km is known because the element properties of all the elements are known. So you can generate this. So in terms of these unknown displacements, Then you have to transform, assemble for all the elements of the club, formulate a total structure element stiffness matrix. Then formulate transformation, relationship between local to global. Because this is in local, you have to find transformation matrix. This is the important calculation which we have to do. Then we have to formulate the global stiffness matrix. Then other three steps, they are very simple. Then steps 5. So we have to formulate equilibrium equations. Formulate equilibrium equations. That equilibrium condition we have to satisfy. That is Ps is equal to Ks ds. That is that. So this Ps is known given loading. Ps is the global load. That will be known to you. Kh you have determined in step 4. Ds you can generate. That is the unknown displacement you have to determine. So this ds is nothing but Ks inverse Ps, or you can solve the equation by usual Gaussian elimination, Gauss-Jordan, whatever it is. The various standard methodology which you can use for this thing also. Standard programs also you can use it. Otherwise, by hand computation, if at all it is in your hand, it is time is affordable, you can do by hand computation and solve it. Then that is step 6. Step 6, find ds. After that is solve the equations of step 5. You will get ds. When once you know ds, last step, one already have done. Displacement you have determined, only Pm to be evaluated. Find Pm, member end forces. That is Pm equals Km of the individual member stiffness matrix, then R into ds. ds you have determined here. You can use transformation matrix to know dm. dm is rds. So km into dm is nothing but pm. So these are the standard 7 steps we are following in the analysis of framed structure. I hope I made the steps clear. I will work one problem. First I will take one simple truss problem. I will indicate the procedure. Then I can work on the problem that I can take care. So let us